So I want to welcome Joe Shanahan to the Startup Grind. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So this is a special one because this is 40 forward. This is our first female guest for Startup Adelaide, so that's awesome. And we just wanted to find out a lot about you. So you don't have an idea what I'm going to ask, do you?
No, I don't.
So we start out with some standard questions. What did your parents do?
My mum ran small businesses like retail stores and things like that, sort of sole trader, a couple of casual type size. And my dad was a self-employed chiropractor.
Okay. What would you say was your first type of business? Like your first type of making money, legal or illegal?
I'll stick with the legal ones for the camera.
We could turn that off after.
I had a toffee making business, Joe's Toffees. And I made toffees and sold them in my mum's shop.
How old were you?
I think 9 or 10.
How much money did you make?
I don't remember. I think I spent it straight away.
That's what you meant to do, isn't it?
Yeah, it didn't last.
No.
It didn't last.
Okay.
It's a statistic.
As your first startup, that's all right. You meant to fail on that, that's cool. So then you went to uni, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
What did you study?
Mechanical and manufacturing engineering.
What got you into that?
I was really good at maths and science, and I wanted to be a vet, and then I thought when you were 18 you would be really old and you'd be happy leaving your mum and going into state to be a vet, and then I got to 18 and realised I wasn't that old and I'd miss my mum, so I had to find another alternative, but I'd already picked all my subject streams. But I really like cars, so I was like, oh well, I would do engineering. So.
And then from there you went straight on to Holden?
No, I worked at GHD and Origin Energy, and then I went to Holden.
Okay, what did those jobs have to do with your degree?
Well,
Or they were just filling jobs?
No, they were engineering like grad jobs. So I got a lot of experience working in projects, and GHD was really good because I have a consulting company now, and it's a like multinational consulting company. So I just learned lots of things about how consulting companies work, and I've used a lot of that knowledge actually in my business. And then I went on to Holden, and I was there for about 4 years.
Okay, so you've been in the press a lot over the last couple of years about a redundancy package.
Yeah, they love that.
How much money did you get?
I got, I think, like 25 grand.
And how much leave? Like, so that was just, you were ready to go 25 grand?
Yeah, I think that's what I walked away with.
What was your plan? Did you have a
plan?
Oh,
yeah, to start Animal Therapeutics Online, which is one of my businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So I started that. And it's an import business. We import therapeutic rugs for performance animals. So like you put the rug on the racehorse wins the race, that kind of thing. They're high-end products. They cost about $10,000. And I put all this money into that. And I based all my forecasting on about 10 years of exchange rates. And then the dollar crashed to a 30-year low. And I couldn't pay my bills or my mortgage, so it was a bit of an issue. So then I had to like get a job. So I started, my mum was working like on her own as a sole trader, and she'd created this company called DVE Business Solutions, which was just so that she could work in multiple universities without a conflict of interest. And so I just started contracting to her to basically earn some cash. And then when I was doing that, they all started getting excited because they had their own engineer in the team, and then I started seeing all these opportunities there, so then I started doing that. And then that ended up sort of getting more successful a lot faster and a lot easier, especially given the exchange rates. So I sort of focused on that for a bit, and then the last couple of years I've really started getting Animal Therapeutics back up and rolling. So now I have the two of them.
Okay, so how have you found trying to run two businesses together?
It's very challenging. Ask Carly. She does a lot of the work.
Do you want to swap seats?
No, I'm posting her on both Facebooks right now.
Okay.
Yeah, she's on it.
Multitasking.
She's good like that. Drinking wine as well. So yeah, it's hard. It's very difficult. I had to make a very conscious decision with Animal Therapeutics to focus on it because DVE had staff, and when you have staff, you feel very responsible to them, and you know, paying their salaries and all that sort of thing, and it drives a lot of accountability. I think accountability for business owners is one of the most difficult things. If you can create a way to give yourself accountability, then that's one of the best ways I've found to actually, you know, follow through with your plans. So that was my problem with Animal Therapeutics, is I had no one to be accountable for. So then I hired Carly in Animal Therapeutics, and then I had a salary that I had to worry about. And I also made a conscious decision that I'd negotiate. I'm a pretty good negotiator, so I'd negotiated all these contracts and exclusive distribution rights over Australia and New Zealand and extra commission rates, and I wasn't even making many sales and all this shit. And then I thought, I'd better actually do something with this. I'm not doing a very good job of actually making sales. So I thought, I've either got to get rid of the distributorship and give it to someone who's going to do something with it, or I've got to actually take it a bit seriously. So that's when I started to focus on it more.
Okay. So how many people in that company for?
That one, the only employee is Carly, and then we used to have an agent model. We won last year the biggest pivot award in Startup Adelaide. And that was because typical model of sales for that type of business is a sales agent on the ground model, and we decided that we didn't like that model. We were losing a lot of the consistency of service delivery to the customers, so we pulled that out and we brought it in-house. So we manage all the sales basically between me and Carly, and I do very little, so basically Carly. We have an ambassador model, so our team of sponsored riders and ambassadors provide us with leads and things. And we manage the sale. So we don't actually have agents, it's all done remotely. And this is like, average sales $12,000, and they're buying over the phone. They've never seen it, they've hardly ever heard of us, and they're actually buying. So that was pretty exciting.
So most of that is inbound?
Yes.
He calls it inbound?
Yes.
How did you get those inbound calls? Have you found like it's been word of mouth that's been able to get you these $12,000 deals over a phone call?
Facebook, we have very, very high level sponsored riders. So we're talking like top of the top. So we had an event last year called Equitana. So if you think golfing, biggest golf event in the Southern Hemisphere, and we had Tiger Woods at our stall. So it's that, but in the equestrian industry. So we have a lot of the top riders who provide validation on the product. It's a very good product. We import it from Germany. But our main it's actually a really interesting market. So the other company is DVE. They're very slow to respond. If you throw something out there, they take like 3 months, and you never know if anything's working. Whereas Animal Therapeutics, you throw something out on Facebook, and you get, like Carly, she posts on Facebook, puts it on Facebook, and she's got to be ready to take phone calls. They're like instantly calling in. So I think it's a combination of the credibility of the riders that we've got, and then it's about over 12,000 fans on Facebook, but they're a very engaged fan group. So we get a lot of our incoming.
How many products do you sell? Is it just the one?
Well, that's another thing we've changed. We used to have quite a wide range of products. We probably had about 20, and just like the last 6 months, I've basically got one main product line now.
Do you find that your business is doing a lot better from?
Yeah, I decided to change from a revenue-focused model to a profit-focused model, which I actually much prefer now. So I'm going to stick with that. So we basically spend almost the same amount of time selling a $20 pot of something, which ends up basically meaning that you pay someone to take it off your hands by the time you've paid someone to do that, as opposed to a $12,000 product. So we just focused on high profit. And we also found that my initial thought process around setting it up was that we would drive all these small sort of repeat sales, and that those customers would trust us as a brand, and they would buy more, and then eventually they would buy one of the big products. But what we actually found was that they weren't the same customers, so we were spending all this time on these small products with these customers that were probably never going to buy a big product. And then the ones who were buying the big products were coming off, from other avenues and just buying a big product. Yeah. So then we just got rid of all the small stuff and just do the big one now.
Do you find you get a lot of repeat business from these types of people, like for the $12,000 ones, or your product's pretty good that they don't need to buy one?
No, it's like a range. So like it's a rug, and then you can buy components as well. So we promote packages. We try and sell a package, but then they can buy the rug on its own, or they can always buy add-on sales. And what we found was that because it is such a good quality product, and we provide exceptional customer service, so that's our sort of point of difference against the competitor as well. So we basically have a hotline. They can call us for help, and we provide a lot of training and things like that. And so what we've found is that when we do release a new product in the range, or the manufacturer does, and they come to say a trade show and they see it, the sale is really easy. So like at this thing last year, we had these girth things, like they go over the horse's stomach, and they're $3,500, and I thought, who's going to pay $3,500 for that? And people who were already customers just walked up and were like, oh, this is awesome, here, have my credit card. And I was like, oh, this is great. So something worked. But yeah, so it's a great product, and they obviously feel very comfortable with us, and so then they buy very easily. And then I went to Europe and the UK last year to talk to a lot of riders and learn more about sort of the product in a longer sort of market time space, I guess. And over there, the average upgrade is 5 years. So we'll be starting to hit 5-year upgrades soon. So we can forecast based on upsells on sort of new components as well as upgrades.
So what would you say with your other business, how do you find like managing the two types of roles? Because you've got Carly who looks after one business. Are you more active in DVE?
Carly's in the other one too. Yeah, it's a bit difficult. DVE takes more time and it's bigger. So, and it has staff and everything. So it does take focus. Sometimes I think, oh, I could work on animal therapeutics full time and that would be amazing. But that's a choice that I've made for the moment. So we just keep growing it. It grows, like it's probably growing, it probably grows by 100% every year anyway. So it's doing all right. But yeah.
Do you think if you did just say, look, I'm not going to do DVE and just set on this one thing, that you could get that growth even bigger?
I could, but I'm not very good at doing one thing anyway.
Yeah, I understand that.
So I kind of think, I have tried to focus a bit, because I think one of the things as entrepreneurs we do is we focus, like we lose focus and we try and do too many things. So I've really made a conscious decision to focus, but at the same time I'm more effective doing more than one thing. So I'm conscious of that as well. So I try and balance it a little bit.
So would you say you're not an attention to detail type of person?
No, I'm more about the ideas and getting other people to do the stuff.
I like that one. I do the same thing.
It works quite well. Works for me.
Yeah. So with DVE, you do a lot of consulting. You're hands-on with that though?
I haven't been, and just recently we've had a bit of a restructure and I wanted to improve some of the delivery systems, so I've been a bit more hands-on again in terms of delivery, just to get in there and see what's going on and improve it again. But now I'm stepping back out of that again.
So you spend more time sort of doing strategy and working on the business instead of the business?
Yeah. So it's actually been a bit weird. I used to be really good at doing the work because I started doing the work, and so then I have staff and I'm like, oh, I can do this so much better than you. And yeah, no, I can't anymore. So yeah, I have learnt that. But yeah, it's good. It's good to go back though and actually do the work a bit. I will probably keep doing it from time to time anyway, because you see the reality of what's going on, and you might be getting frustrated and you can't pinpoint what you're getting frustrated about, and something's bothering you, and then you get in there and then you see it and you're like, oh, why the hell are we doing that? That's stupid, and you can fix it really easily. And then everyone's really grateful to you. They're like, oh, we thought something was wrong too, but we didn't know what. It's so great that you could just come in and fix that like that. Yeah. So I'll probably do it a bit, but I don't want to be doing the work. Like, no, and even now, like I'm doing more than I usually would, but I'm still probably only doing a day a week. And that's more than enough.
So what would you say your game plan is for the future?
DVE?
You as a person.
Well, I'm in a I don't know, I feel I'm in a world of opportunities at the moment. So it's a very exciting time, but I also don't have a strong plan. So I'm sort of floating a lot between Adelaide and Sydney at the moment, and for both businesses, I've got pretty strong international growth plans, so I'll have to work out what I'm going to do there. I might relocate internationally for a bit. I might try and head it up from over here. I don't know.
See what happens.
Yeah, see what happens. It'll be big and it'll be exciting. There'll be lots happening.
So at the end of the day, is there what would you say is that one passion that you have? Is it you want to be a vet when you were 18? Do you want to get back into? No,
I really love, business is what I do. Like, it took me a while. Like, I tried to do, when I look back, like my mum and, I wasn't raised by my dad, I was raised by my mum, but even my dad worked for himself, and my grandparents worked for themselves, my auntie works for herself. They all had small businesses though, nothing was big. But I look back now and I think, why did mum push me into a, normal uni corporate job? Like, obviously I'm born to do this. So now I just love growing businesses. I love problem solving. I think that's the thing with my degree is engineering is about problem solving, and it's important when you're in a business. It's about solving problems. It's either solving your clients' problems or it's solving problems in your own business, or for your staff and things like that. So I feel like my degree set me up really well, and I think my experience was excellent. I wouldn't take any of it back. But now I'm doing this, I realise that this is completely the right place for me, and it's what I'll keep doing. But yeah, I like growing something from nothing, and I like helping people grow and develop and empowering them and watching that happen.
So you find you're more like a startup type of person, or are you looking for the long term?
No, I like big growth. Yeah.
Girls.
I know.
That's what happens when you do a 44. There are more females in the room. I thought I had a dirty mind and just laughing. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, of course you did.
So you're looking for big growth. That's what you like to do. You get something from nothing. You have some sort of CEO type of people that will just get it to a certain point when they raise a bunch of money, or they get to a certain level and then they step out. You see yourself as being able to move from every single step through until you exit a business?
Probably like strategically. So, and it depends on the strategy of the business. So like the plan with Animal Therapeutics is to actually have a fairly defined exit strategy, whereas DVE I will probably keep and run in the background and just stay on as a strategic person and have people operationally running it. So they're quite different strategies, both of them.
Okay. We got a bunch of PR in the last couple of weeks about this event and about, come here, about Jo, how she built a business up to 300% growth. Let's talk about that, because I don't know enough about this. Where you got 300% growth on, was it DVE?
What one was that one?
Animal Therapeutics,
That sounds small.
The pivot.
Yeah, DVE's
That was
bigger.
the pivot.
Yeah, that was that one. That was the pivot.
Okay, so that was just you think that was by reducing the amount of products that you were selling?
Yeah, reducing the products, getting rid of the agents, improving the delivery of service, having real clarity around who our customer is and what we're selling and why. So when we entered the market, there was a very, very strong competitor that had basically just mass market appeal and a lot of loyalty, particularly in Australia. And when we entered, it was us against them, and we were tiny and they were massive, so it was actually quite difficult. But then a third player came into the market and everyone was a bit worried. For us, I wasn't, because there's another one now, you're just another one. But actually it was good because they are very cheap. So now it's a very segregated market. So there's this cheap one, which has, its place. And then there's sort of this mass market one, which now fits in the middle. And then there's us, which is very much a premium product. So now that we're premium, we premium price, we premium service. It is a premium product. It's much easier to sell. And I've learned DVE's positioned sort of fairly premium as well now, which it didn't used to be. And I found for me, like, I work better in a premium space. Like, I like sort of over delivering and offering a really good quality product and service. And so I want to do it anyway. So then I end up losing money if I try and do it cheap. Yeah. So I rather set an expectation that you're going to get premium, you're going to pay premium, but then actually be able to deliver it.
Yeah, so this is the quality instead of the quantity.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Let's talk about female entrepreneurs in Adelaide. Because we had a thing last year for Startup Spring, and we had a panel of 4 people. Basically 4 guys were up on this panel, and a lady from the audience was a bit upset that there was enough female entrepreneurs that was being invited to speak, or they didn't have a big enough presence in terms of like the public eye for Adelaide. How have you found being a female and being an entrepreneur and running a business in Adelaide?
Well, I was a female mechanical engineer, and I was a female engineer at Holden, and that was that was a bigger gender gap than being an entrepreneur. So for me, I come from the other end of the spectrum, so it seems pretty good to me. Like, there's women everywhere in my mind. But I think diversity in general is important. So yeah, it's a difficult question for me to answer because I don't personally have a problem with it. Like, I've never found it difficult. But at the same time, I'm such an engineer. Everything's like really objective, and so like there's pros and cons with everything. So you have strengths and you have weaknesses, and you have to work to your strengths and use them, and you have to sort of minimise your weaknesses or work on them if you have to. And so there's strengths and weaknesses being a female as well. Like, I've had a lot of trouble. I don't like the female thing, and so I've had a lot of trouble actually positioning as a female entrepreneur. So like, I've got a lot of media lately, and a lot of it is around the fact that I'm a female entrepreneur, and I used to not get media, and like people, they were interested, but I just
it wasn't enough.
I didn't. Yeah, there was nothing, and then I discovered that they liked the fact that I was a female entrepreneur, so I thought, I'll go with that.
Any PR's good PR.
Any PR's good PR, and now I'm Representing. But yeah, so I think, but when you speak to a lot of women, they don't like that fact, except, you know, you have to use what you can get. So, you know, if I can get a media piece because I'm a female entrepreneur, then I'm going to use that. Probably somewhere there's going to be some negatives as well, I'm sure, but I just choose not to focus on those. So you know, and even when I was an engineer, if I didn't get a job, sometimes people would say to me, oh, you know, you would have got that if you were a man. And I think, no, I don't actually think so. I think I didn't get it because I wasn't the right person.
Yeah.
You know, you can create situations out of everything. So I really just try and focus on the positives and not the negatives. But in general, I think that awareness raises change. So if there is an issue where there was maybe a reduced volume of, you know, any particular cohort, say females in a space, then awareness of that is going to actually drive some change in it. So, and I'm aware that, yeah, that's an important thing that has to happen.
So what's one piece of advice you would give females that are thinking about being an entrepreneur?
Well, I would give anyone who's thinking of being an entrepreneur the same advice, and that's that if you want to do it, you should do it. You should have a good plan, and you should take some action. There's too much talking and not enough action, in my opinion. But at the same time, like, make sure that you don't have to, you know, that you can cope with a bit of risk, because if you can't cope with risk, it doesn't matter. You know, there's so many courses now and interest in entrepreneurship. They're trying to create entrepreneurs out of nothing. I think that acceptance of risk is something that you actually can't train into yourself that well. And so if you actually are incredibly risk averse, then maybe you need to look at being like an intrapreneur as opposed to an entrepreneur. But yeah, that's not a gender.
What's the difference? I haven't heard of an entrepreneur.
Okay, so like working in an organisation where they actually, you know, empower you and allow you to drive change and do some of your own projects and maybe start up, you know, divisions and things like that. So you still need an entrepreneurial mindset, and that's the type of people that they want.
But you still get a salary and
but you still get salary and security. Or even like working with, you know, sort of still early stage high growth companies, like with DVE, for example. I would say the people I have hired now, we're going into a new phase of growth. I said we've just done a restructure. The type of people we have in the team now would actually, I've never thought about it this way, but probably would be classed as entrepreneurs. So I look for entrepreneurial traits in the people that I'm hiring at the moment, because I know where we need to go doesn't necessarily have a job description and things like that. And they need to be able to take hold of things and run with it and not ask me a million questions, because I'm pretty busy. So yeah.
We found trying to send emails back and forth, it was hard to get in touch with you at the start.
Yeah, just you have to CC Carly.
She's like, yeah, I have to check the calendar where she is today.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that if you're thinking about it and you're a bit worried about that, then that might be a direction to go in, even if it's just a stepping stone, like starting in another organisation and getting a feel for it and then doing your own thing a little bit to sort of manage that risk. But that's my opinion on where maybe entrepreneurs, or, you know, want to be entrepreneurs, sort of fall down a little bit, is if they can't manage that. And they can't action. You have to action.
It's all about action.
Action.
That's what I do. I think it's easy to ask for forgiveness and ask permission.
Exactly, I love that. And I have an 80-20 rule, so everyone wants it to be perfect, and it's my business and it's going to be out there in the public and it should be perfect. No, it shouldn't be perfect. So it should be 80%. If it's 80%, it's good enough. Yeah. And then you can improve it later. And the reality is the last 20%, you'll never end up doing the way you were going to do it in the first place, because you're going to realise it should have been done differently. But you don't learn that until you get it out there.
I think that's one of the biggest things that I find with entrepreneurs, or with startups especially, is my product has to be perfect.
Yeah, no.
It's like perfection
There's no such
doesn't
thing.
exist.
Exactly.
Especially in software. Forget that
Everything.
term. Yeah, lose that term. Forget it exists. What have you done in terms of to help you grow as an entrepreneur and as a person? Do you have mentors?
Yeah, I have mentors. So I'm very much interested in learning and developing as a person, and so I think it's really important to, you know, surround yourself with people who are, you know, a step or two ahead of you all the time, so you're just seeing what they're doing and navigating the landscape a bit so you can build your own path. I like to have a number of people. Like, I don't just listen to one person and do what they say. So, you know, I might, if I start hearing the same thing a few times, then I start going, oh, okay, maybe I need to be taking notice of this. My first mentor was this, he's a businessman based in Sydney, and he had this website. He wrote an article in Smart Company or something, and it was a good article, and I had some question. I went to his website and he had a thing there, ask me any question. I thought, all right, I'll ask this guy a question. I hadn't spoken to anyone before. I was very much in my little office working hard, you know, wasn't really out there, wasn't in communities, nothing. And I wrote this guy a question. The only response I got was, call me tomorrow at 10 a.m. And I was like, oh, okay. I ring this guy, and he's a lovely guy, but he sounds really gruff and mean on the phone. And so I ring this guy, I don't know him at all, and he's just like, really gruff. And anyway, he ended up talking to me for like an hour, and I said, maybe you could help me. Like, can I, hire your services? And he said, you can't afford me, but I'll help you anyway. And he's been helping me the last few years, and he's been great. And then I did through Animal Therapeutics, I did the South Australian Young Entrepreneur Scheme, so I've got mentors through that, and I've maintained relationships with those mentors and still meet with them regularly, and they help me. I make sure that I do that, and they seem to enjoy that. That's the thing. That's one thing I've noticed. Like, people ask me to mentor and everything, and I speak to people and say you should ask for a mentor, and they're always a little bit scared. But the reality is, it's kind of like an apprenticeship program. Like, if they go anywhere, they were mentored by someone. Don't meet anyone who hasn't been mentored by someone, and then it's almost like they have to give back. And one, they feel this actual sense of repaying it, and two, they actually really enjoy it, because like I said before, we all have so much, distraction, and we want to do all these new things and new ideas, and you can't do it. One of the ways I think we combat that is actually by helping other people in their business. So if, I go and help someone, and I'm all excited and I have all these ideas, but then I don't have to worry about it. I can walk away. It's their problem. So I think that asking for mentors is really important. But yeah, and just always on the lookout for new ones. And I'm always like, if I've got some new idea, or I'm sort of thinking about something, then I'll just keep my eye out for people who are doing it well in that space, and go talk to them. And the other thing is with mentors, like, they're not going to be perfect. You don't need a mentor that's everything you want to be, because they don't exist. You actually are yourself. So they might have one like really discrete piece of knowledge that's useful to you, and it's okay to just meet with them, and that's what you want out of them. Or it might be a broad thing. So yeah, just look for people who have something in them that you maybe see yourself wanting, and then just have some conversations.
So if I just reach out, don't be afraid.
Yeah, no, just ask. They'll only say no.
Yep. No
one's ever said no. Like, you got to be sensible about it. I don't like this thing that everyone says. I don't know if this is just me. You know how you go to the networking events and they say you have to give them some ideas for times? Like, 2 options for times? I hate that. I'm like, I'm busier than you. If you want me to mentor you, you fit in with my schedule.
Yeah.
So that's the opposite of the advice that people give.
It's kind of like a sales technique, though.
Yeah, maybe. I don't like it. It might just be me.
It's a sales thing for pitching. Don't ask people.
Yeah, 2 options. I have to pick one.
Yeah.
If you give me 2 options on my time, I'll pick none. But no, I think that you've got to have. I know it's a bit like sales anyway, isn't it? Like, you've got to have a bit of a contact point early, and like, I wouldn't go in too hard. Just have a conversation, see if you like the person, take them out for coffee. It's kind of like dating. So I'm told.
That's what Tinder is these days.
Yeah, Tinder.
How's Tinder? Yeah, it's not like the old times where you go, hey, let's catch up for coffee. It's just Tinder.
Yeah.
Swipe right.
Swipe right.
Yeah, swipe right. Everyone swipe right. I think you did a program called Entourage. Did you do
Oh yeah, I did. Yep.
Yeah. How did you find that?
Yeah, that was really good. I started that at the beginning of last year. So one of my main reasons for doing that was to get sort of a broader network of business people, and so now, like, it's excellent actually. Like, I have networks.
Who knows about the Entourage? Okay, cool.
They did a thing.
They were here a couple of months ago.
Last week, Monday. They did
yeah,
a thing.
here.
Yeah. No, it was really, really good. They I have contacts, like business contacts in every state of Australia now. I have contacts, because it's like 200 people in the program or something, but it was 80 when I started, so you made a bit closer relationships back then. And so now I'm in any state, or if I've got an interest in any particular industry, I have people I can call. Just pick up the phone and call people, or go on Facebook and message people, and that's been really beneficial. So yeah, from that perspective, it was great. That was my main reason for joining, was just the community aspect, and being around people with bigger businesses was useful. So there's a higher volume, so you've got more chance of there being bigger businesses than yours, which I always like being like the small fish in the big pond and having the opportunity to grow, rather than being like the big fish in the little pond and just kind of staying there. So that's my personal sort of thing.
What's that saying? If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I like. So, And then they have really good content as well. So I learned a lot I was useless with media, and I've been in a lot of media since, and that's very largely due to what I learned through that. And the sales techniques. So we did with the Animal Therapeutics, we packaged up all our products, and I didn't know anything about packaging before then. And they taught us a lot of that sort of stuff in the sales program and sales technique, which I didn't know. I knew nothing about sales. I built this consulting company. We knew nothing. We didn't know what business development was. We didn't know what sales was. We knew nothing at all.
What was your title? Huh? Before you knew what sales was, what was your title on your business card?
Just director.
Because everyone calls themselves business development managers now.
Do they?
Yeah, that's the new hype word.
I'm not cool enough. I'm still a director. I should change that. Anyway, yeah. So we knew nothing at all, and so I learned a lot about sales from that program, which was great, and just like strategies, and yeah, it was good. It was good. I think we probably were very natural salespeople, and so we didn't know that we were probably doing it. But there's a level. You can't set up systems. If you want to grow, you have to set up systems, and you can't set up systems on intuition. So I've really spent the last year thinking about all the stuff that I do intuitively and setting up systems, and like having to train other people on it and having them ask questions, because I think it's common knowledge. That's the thing when you learn, like you don't remember not knowing it, but actually you learnt it at some point. So I like having to train someone else and having to think about it, and you can set the system up. So that's been really good for that, because that was just such an intuitive part of our business.
So I've got a question about failure. Have you ever failed at any business?
Well, the toffees stuck together in the bag. I don't think anyone bought many. I think my mum might have bought them when I wasn't there. I don't really believe in failure. Like, I believe that you make the right choice for the right reason at the right time. And so then sometimes that does what you thought it was going to do, and sometimes it doesn't. And then if it doesn't, you just reassess that and make another decision. Yeah. So I kind of work that way, as opposed to I don't even think about it as failure. But I don't really do something with an intention to fail, and I don't even do something and think about failure. I just do it and think, oh yeah, well, I'll just keep going till I get that right.
So you live with no regret?
Yeah, yep. Don't believe in regret. Yep.
So there's no fear of failure. What sort of advice would you give to people that do have that fear of failure? Because that's what I find in Adelaide. A lot of people have this fear of failure, so they don't try something, because like Adelaide's this small community where everyone sort of knows everyone somehow, and they're worried about the reputation of if they stuff up with their first startup or their first business, that they won't be able to get another chance.
I think just like have a backup plan. Like I like options. You should diversify your risk, you don't want to ever just have one plan and think that's my plan, that's going to get me to where I want to go, because the reality is it might not, and then you've put all your eggs in one basket. So I'd be like, okay, there's that plan, but I could do that or that, and then if that doesn't work, I could do that. Or sometimes, I'm not that worried, so I'll just wing it anyway. But yeah, if it's something that you're not sure about, it's really unknown, just have a few different plans. So then if one doesn't work, it's part of the plan is to go to the backup plan. And then it's not failure, it's just, I had a backup plan. Yay for me.
I pivoted.
Yeah, I pivoted. I want a pivot award, actually. That wasn't failure, it was pivoting.
That was a pivot. I think I'm going to open up for questions, because I'm done. I think I've grilled you enough. I think this was a good event for the audience, and I reckon they're going to have a bunch of questions for us. Alright. So if you have a question, just stand up and shout it out. They're either going to make me look really bad right now and not ask any questions.
Someone can be the first one.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Do it.
So from your background originally is in engineering, which is more of a practical hands-on problem solving, how did you find transitioning that into business, money, revenue, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so there's probably two sides of that. One is problem solving is a thought process. It doesn't matter if it's practical or not. I remember at uni, our lecturer said, I can't teach you to solve every problem, but I can teach you to solve any problem. And that's one thing I think I got out of that degree, which working with non-engineers a lot, I've noticed as a real benefit. So that aspect of it is completely transferable in any situation. It's just a thought process. In terms of translate into sort of, financial things. Like I had to learn how to read financials and things like that. Like I didn't know how to do all that, and I didn't know how to like cash flow forecast, and now I'm a gun. I've got an awesome Excel sheet, don't I, Chris? I've over-engineered it completely. That's what I do. But yeah, so I had to learn all that. That was a bit difficult. I'm not used to, I like to do things and do them well, so I'm not used to going in and not doing things well. So then when I feel like I'm sucking a bit, I really hate that. So then I have to go. So like when we talked about mentors, I went out, I was like, right, I suck at financials. I'm going to go get financial mentors. And I went and got like 4 or 5 financial mentors because I don't believe in just getting one. So I got like 4 or 5, and I just spent like all last year learning all about financial stuff, which was kind of fun in a way.
It's numbers.
It's numbers. I like numbers, and I'm good with numbers. That's what I found interesting about it. I just think I didn't have the knowledge behind, like the foundation knowledge.
That's why you've got a best friend that does those types of numbers.
Yeah, I just send him an email. He gets annoyed because there's too many emails from me in his inbox. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sort of.
Oh, okay, no, that sounds like a no to me.
It doesn't sound like there is a straight answer, so, but you've given an insight, so it's good.
Okay. There probably isn't a straight answer, sorry. I do, however, think that you learn everything from every situation you're in. Like you can learn something and transfer it somewhere else, no matter what situation you're in. Like I have friends at uni who refuse to get part-time jobs, and their argument was that part-time job wouldn't help them later in life because it wasn't in an engineering field or something. And I always thought that was stupid because like you learn, just because you're not learning engineering, it doesn't mean you're not learning. So any area you're in, like if you take engineering, maybe this is a bit more practical. So I worked at Holden on the assembly line. So the car comes in as a painted body, and at the end of the car it drives. At the end of the line it drives. So it's new, it's finished. And a car's off the line every 76 seconds. So it's all about process improvement, continuous improvement, lean, 5S, all that sort of thing. So if you can shave 3 seconds off the line speed, then you're building a lot more cars every day. So what I actually did was I took all that theory and I like dumbed it down. That's a bit rude. It's not dumbed it down. I've built it in a way that allows it to be applied to non-engineering environments, and that's actually what DVE is based on. So DVE is all of that knowledge, like from Holden and everything, from process improvement, continuous improvement, but we apply it to non-engineering environments and help them to streamline their administrative processes and things like that. So in actual fact, that exact experience was what I built a consulting company on. Is that better? He's hard to please.
I've met him before, he's definitely hard to please.
On Tinder?
Every once in a while, Tinder does stuff up and show me mails. I'm like, wait, I didn't change my setting. Oh crap. The weird part is I actually matched with one of my good friends. Like, I don't even remember seeing him. It's just he sent me a message saying, hey, I'm like, oh crap. What the hell did I do last night? Anyway,
There was
you had
one.
a question?
I just wanted to know how long how long ago you started your businesses. I don't like to say how old are you, but
DVE, I think 2009. Yeah, so what, like 5 years probably.
Yeah.
But when I started it, I didn't start it to grow. I just started it because I needed money. So I really had to reinvent the business, which has actually been quite difficult. It's harder, I think, personally, to reinvent a business, to actually like completely flip it, than to decide to start with growth in mind from the beginning. So nothing was really, it was set up a bit because I'm very systemized, but I just was doing work because it paid the bills basically. And then I was like, oh, there's opportunity here. Oh, I should grow it. Oh, there's all these things I could be doing. I should do that. And then I started doing it, and then I went, oh, actually this business isn't set up to do all of this. This isn't working all that well. So I had to change all these things. And I basically had to flip everything, which was quite difficult. So it was pretty challenging. But we're in a very good place now for the next phase of growth. So in some ways it feels like we haven't grown a lot in the last year. Like we haven't had massive revenue growth in the last 12 months. We still have grown, but we've had very, very significant profit growth, and we've had very significant internal systems and foundations put in place that we didn't have before. So now I can really start moving it up. And the team we've got now is excellent, and everyone works together really well. Everyone's on the same page, got the same vision, which we didn't have before, because we were kind of flipping visions. It was like small business, typical small business mentality, switching to a big growth business mentality, which is actually quite different, and different things are important. So like in our team now, we don't have anyone who's been with us longer than 18 months. So that sort of signifies that sort of change that's happened in the last 18 months.
And how do you find the economy's affected your business? Like, can you really see differences?
Yeah, you have to work harder to get the same sales. It is, yeah, I do feel that. Like I said, we didn't know what BD was. It was really easy, and everyone used to look at me like, how do you not do any BD? I'm like, I don't know, we don't do anything. And then we were like, oh, we should send an email. We should have a database. So we didn't have any of that. We were just like, oh, we'll just grow this business. So yeah, it was kind of good in a way that it was easy, because we just did it. But then in a way, I think part of me thinks, oh, it would have been great to have had to have learnt that when we were smaller, because it's harder to learn it when you're bigger. But then in the same way, I'm like, oh, well, maybe we wouldn't have got this far if we had to learn it when we were smaller. I don't believe in regrets, so I just reflect. Yeah.
Okay. So on the back of that question, did you find that the organic growth in your business, when you don't have BD, a lot of that came out of like networking and the strength of your personal business relationships that you built over time?
Yeah, business relationships was probably the main thing. So we started in universities. So the way we started was, if you know a university structure, it's very hierarchical. So we started at the bottom. So you do one workshop in one university and one school, and you invite other people and you start meeting other people. So then you get a job in the next school and the next school, and then they start noticing you at a division level, so then you start getting those jobs. And then they start seeing you in central units and you start getting those jobs. Whereas now we go and get asked by the Vice Chancellor to come in and talk. So it's very different. But we still do the sort of bottom jobs work the way up as well, kind of meet in the middle now. But yeah, that was how we did it basically. And my mum, so I work in that business with my mum. My mum's worked in the university sector for like 10 years. So that's how we had a lot of contacts. But saying that, like Adelaide's been really difficult. So that's one of my things that I'm finding really difficult at the moment, is doing business in Adelaide. And so I had a week. In fact, this is another week now, I think. We're in a week. So we had a week in January, first week ever in the history of the company, that we didn't have a project current in Adelaide. And I just finished one last week, so at the moment we're in the same situation. I don't have a project in Adelaide. I have staff here and an office here. We've got an office in Sydney as well. We have a lot of work on the East Coast, Western Australia, New Zealand. But yeah, so I have no work in Adelaide at the moment. I've got people here. So next week I'm flying like 3 or 4 people to Sydney, and that's not really sustainable. So I've got to make some decisions there about whether to actually maybe shift operations to Sydney. And I've always been very passionate about building and maintaining growth business in Adelaide, but it's getting harder. I'm finding it difficult at the moment.
How do you feel like to have a business with your mom? Because as a consumer, you got in and you shipped something that ships and how is it to have a family relationship, and how did she accept your inputs and your change? What was she open-minded for?
Family businesses are very, very interesting. So like with mentors and networks and community, one of the things I always look for is like other people who run family businesses, because if you don't run a family business, you don't understand some of the issues. It's quite different. Saying that, mum and I, I was raised by my mum. I'm an only child. We have a different probably sort of relationship than a lot of parents, but we work very well close side by side. We have the same values, which I think is important. In all relationships, I think underlying values are the most important things. So if you're setting up strategic partnerships, if you're working with clients, if you don't have values that align, then you're probably going to have trouble. If your values align, then you can stuff other things up and it can usually be forgiven. So that's one good thing, is we have aligned values. I remember when I worked at Holden, I was a fairly reasonably senior position at Holden, and I did great work and they valued that. And then I came and helped my mum out in her little business, and I built this awesome spreadsheet, right? It was so good. And
Spreadsheet queen.
So yeah, and I programmed it. It was amazing. Anyway, I went away for a week, and when I came back, she deleted it. I went off. This is like 5 years ago, and people still bring up the spreadsheet. It's like renowned in the business. because everyone's like, oh, Joe won't like that, remember the spreadsheet. So yeah, that was like the first thing where I was like, I used to be valued and now you don't value me because you've deleted my spreadsheet. That actually was fucking awesome. Like, and then I rebuilt it and I showed her and she's like, this is a great spreadsheet. I'm like, yeah, I know. I guess what has been difficult was Mum, as I said right at the beginning, Mum is a small business owner, like, shops and, casuals in a shop. And I'm like a big grow international business sort of mindset. And with this transition with the business, it's like, so initially I was a contractor in her sole trader business. And then I became, I think I was a business manager or something. We had some staff. And then I was a joint director. And now I'm the CEO and she's on the board and she does some client relationship management, but I run the show. And so that transition has taken a bit too, because it was her business, and what it is now is nothing at all. It's not the same business. It has the same name, it's not the same business. So that has been part of the growth as well. But on the main, like, we work quite well. We don't work well in the same projects or anything. Like, if we're doing the same thing together, that doesn't work well. But if we're working side by side, that works pretty well.
Do you take a lot of, because you said that she's on the board, does she give a lot of, like, do you hear a lot of what she says, like, do you take a lot of her opinion?
I always listen to her opinions. I do listen. Sometimes she comes up with some good things. Yeah, no, it's good. We have like good dialogue. So even if I don't feel like she's told me what to do, because not that many people tell me what to do, she's a good sounding board. And because we have the same values, I can throw an idea back and forward, we can discuss it. And even if sometimes I don't admit it, my idea might have changed a little bit towards the end of the conversation than it was at the beginning.
Just got one with the last question. What's the nature of the projects in Adelaide that can't be collaborated on? What type of projects are you doing here that need to be shifted to the eastern states?
It's just, to be honest, I think it's not so much the nature of the project, it's to do with the market here. So, and it's largely our doing. We found last year because we were too strong in higher ed, and the Gonski report came out and a lot of budgets got cut, and so we got affected quite significantly in a very short space of time in terms of incoming business. And it was quicker and easier to get bigger jobs in Sydney, so we just moved our efforts to Sydney. So I suspect if we had like BD efforts happening on the ground like maybe we used to in Adelaide, we would probably have more projects in Adelaide. But the reality is we can go and get a 10 times bigger project on the eastern coast with half the effort.
So it's more or less being close to your client's help is why they're here.
Yeah, probably.
I was saying, you're saying you're going to fly them all to the eastern states. Is that they can't work remotely on the project?
Mostly they work remotely.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so, but you still have to do some workshops and things. So we do process improvement, system implementation, that sort of thing. So we have to go in and do some workshops and things like that. And so for that, you have to be in person.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't normally fly that many people at once. Next week is a bit of a unusual scenario. But yeah, we don't have business here. So yeah, everything's over there. So then all the workshops are over there. But yeah, most of the work we do remotely. So we do a lot of work like with Skype and things like that. And we typically find if you meet someone early on face to face in the sort of the kick-off stage of the project, then you can maintain a pretty good relationship throughout the project remotely. The initial meeting is very useful because people just have an understanding of tone and body language and things like that. So it stops a lot of sort of misinterpretations. But if you need to run workshops, you need to have people in the room. So yeah.
Do you have a question in the back?
Yeah, I was going to say, what would you be doing now if DVE Solutions hadn't been started by anyone?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have some other business. I'd be running businesses, just be in something else probably. Yeah, I don't know what. I don't really think that way, but it'd be similar-ish. Be business definitely.
And Equitana, so you were talking about that earlier. Do you sponsor that, run it, or just exhibit at it, and that's a good marketplace for you?
Yeah, that one's an exhibitor only,
Yeah.
but we most of our sales are in the stable. So with because Equitana's competition and exhibition. So we have an exhibition stall, but because our main clientele are competitors, we go up and do demos in the stables, which is a little bit sneaky, but we do it anyway. Ask forgiveness, not permission, hey? And whereas we do other shows which we might sponsor, and then we do other shows where we don't exhibit and we just go in the stables. Do we do anything else? They're the main things. We send rugs out with ambassadors as well. So if we've got ambassadors, and if they're out at competitions, they'll have a rug with them at a competition, and part of the deal with them is that they have to answer queries if people are interested. So we can then promote on Facebook that, hey, so-and-so is competing at this competition, and then they're on the ground there. So they're not exactly doing demos, but at least we've got some presence there. And that's how we manage the fact that we don't have agents.
Hi. You mentioned that you have quite a few mentors, and we've met quite a few mentors. What advice would you have if you met someone that you would like to be a mentor? How do you ask them, I guess? What advice?
I never just ask straight out to be a mentor. I just usually say, do you want to have coffee? Like, I'd really like to have coffee with you. And then go on a coffee date and see if actually when you have a conversation, it works both ways. And if it does, I've actually found that some of them have liked me and have actually said to me, are you interested in me mentoring you a bit more formally? And other people I don't necessarily call a mentor, but we catch up and I talk to them. So you don't have to have like a formal mentor engagement to be a mentor. But saying that, I have a couple where I have, and yeah, one was that guy I mentioned to you who I wanted to pay for his consulting services, and he offered it for free. And then another one she actually offered to me. That was Kylie Bishop. She won the Telstra Woman of the Year award last year. And she offered me, which was very nice. And I think that was off the back of a coffee or something. So yeah, I just start with a coffee and just see if there's any rapport, if actually they can give you advice in the area where you're looking for advice. And then you can kind of broach the subject and just say, look, I found this really helpful. Or normally I would go back and say thanks and be like, I'd really love to have another coffee. And if they're not interested, then you can maybe sense that. Or if they are interested, then it might just evolve a bit as well. Yeah. It's a bit of a selling technique, relationship management. It's everywhere.
Just a quick one on the mentorship. Do you ever, I know this is a bit forthright, but do you ever actually pay for mentorship, or is yours just more of a sit down, have a coffee, see where it goes, and if you kind of say, well, look, I actually need some information from them, I'm happy to pay?
Yeah.
Where does that kind of go?
I guess I don't think about it as mentorship. Like I hired a career coach. So I'm an engineer and I've been around like men in production lines. So when I first started, I swore a lot. And I'm like really blunt and direct.
You're doing really well with the swearing thing. I haven't heard anything.
There's a camera. Carly will tell me off.
I've got like 4.
Yeah.
Count of 4. That's why I like when we swear. If you watched any of my videos, we swear a lot.
We Carly was just saying today, we don't have email filters, which is really good because like none of my emails would get through because I'm like, anyway. What was that? I got distracted by it. Yeah, so like I'm like really blunt and really forthright, and I'll tell very quickly, oh that's shit, what are you doing? Or like, that's really great. But I was probably a little bit too I don't know. I'm not very good at the fluffy, more fuzzy stuff. So I actually specifically sought out a career coach who was super strong in that area, like very extreme to me. And I got sort of career coaching, which I paid for, in how to manage employees and things like that, and used her advice sort of a bit on call and then a bit through structured sessions on just how to maybe adjust my communication style to suit different employees, because I recognised that not everyone was like that. In fact, the majority of people weren't like that. Our clients aren't like that. Most of the people I hire aren't like that. So that was an instance where I found I had a very specific need, and I sought out something that was very clearly defined, and I paid for that. Yeah, so I think it depends what you need. If you just want a general chit-chat, I wouldn't be paying for it. If you know what you want, and you want it to be structured, and you want to get something out of it, then I don't think there's any problem paying for it. And like I do the entourage thing, like you get mentoring through that. Like I paid for that. Say Yes, I paid for. So you can pay for it through programs as well. think mentors come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. I think maybe sometimes people have this idea of what a mentor is. Like, you don't have to call them a mentor for them to be a mentor necessarily. So yeah. Does that answer that?
Yeah. Just more so, just interested in talking about yourself. You talked about, look, you've come from a scientific background where it's kind of cause and effect process, but I guess entrepreneurship and even looking at businesses, kind of navigating and finding a way, and more of the art about of ways and being creative about kind of influencing people and some of those components. Do you want to talk a little bit about that with yourself and use yourself as an example?
Yeah, I'm very balanced, creative, scientific, so I'm not very biased one way or the other, which is probably less usual. So I like both sides of it. I think it works if you are very strong in one. I think you do need a balance of both, and I think if you're very strong, and the instances where I've seen people who are very strong in one or the other is they have a good business partner that balances them. But I actually can do both quite well, so I haven't found that so much. Saying that, my mum's more like the communicative type, so where I said before, I took all these engineering principles and I've toned them down and applied them to non-engineering environments. My mum is like highly communicative, loving-y. It's lovely. So the opposite of me, and so together is actually what has created our offering. Like, so I've got this highly process-driven, scientific engineering-y way of doing things, and then she's got this highly collaborative, communicative, caring way, and we've kind of combined those things to create this offering that is what, feeding engineering principles to non-engineering people, which is kind of where we've sort of made our mark. So yeah, I think that you do need a balance of both, and it's a matter of recognizing, again, this is what we were saying right at the beginning, like, everyone's got strengths and weaknesses, know what they are. Like, I'm massive, I go on about all the time, massive about awareness. If you're aware of something, then you can manage it. So if you know you've got a weakness in a certain area, make a decision, either is it worth working on that, yes or no, because sometimes if it's a weakness, get someone else to do it. But if you want to work on it, then make a conscious decision and work on it, or recognise actually that is a real weakness of yours and get someone else in to do that part of it, and then you'll be much faster. Yeah. You again.
So you said at the start that when you were introducing the horse blanket, I think it was, that there were already existing dominant players in the market. So do you have any sort of insight on how you try and enter a market that already has dominant players that are probably, how do you get through the intimidation? How do you present yourself as an established or viable product when there's already huge players right next to you trying to...
Yeah, I was probably a bit naive, and I didn't even think about it, I just did it. But they were quite intimidating. They weren't all that nice to me all the time. And I'm really nice. I didn't cope with that very well, to be honest. I found it a bit difficult. And I'm not very competitive. Like, I'm ambitious, but I'm not competitive. So I really actually struggle. Like, DVE is easy. We don't have any direct competitors. It's great. I love that. Animal Therapeutics, like, we have very direct competitors, and I have to learn how to be a bit more competitive because I'm not naturally. But at the same token, it's easier. Like, DVE, people are like, oh, who's your competitor? We have stacks of indirect competitors, but we don't have a direct competitor. We never go in a tender against the same company more than once. And so then there's almost this nervousness, and you're like looking over your shoulder, because surely we can't be the only people like in this exact space. Like, surely someone's coming up and they're gonna overtake us. Whereas with Animal Therapeutics, you can kind of watch the space. So that's useful as well. So again, it's just pros and cons with everything. In terms of how to get into it, in hindsight, like, know where your place is. Like, I just went in, was like, oh, sell these rugs. And then when we worked out where our place was in the market, it got a lot easier. And then you're not trying to sell. So like, someone comes in who's like a pony clubber and they're interested in our product. Sure, if they want to buy it, I'll sell it to them. But the reality is they're probably not going to buy it. And then when they go and buy an equissage, I don't cry. I'm like, oh, they bought the other thing. Well, they're a pony clubber. That's probably, they wanted the pink one. We don't sell pink ones because we sell to professionals. They don't care about the colour. And now we know that. So So I think knowing exactly who your customer is and why you're solving their problem as opposed to the competitor is probably the most important thing. So then if they're going after my customer, then I'm going to be questioning why. And the reality is I know if I do my job properly that that customer will buy our product, and if they buy their product, it won't be long and they'll be upgrading to our product. So that's a very helpful learning. But I only learnt that in like the last year or so. I wish I'd worked that out earlier probably.
So when you said know your place in the market, I don't remember the exact words, but was it a case of choosing your place or finding out what it was?
Probably a bit of both, and it's probably a bit of an iterative process. You always ask the questions with the not straightforward answers. Yeah, it's not that straightforward because, you know, I'm also of the opinion that you should let your market guide you. So you don't want to go out there and say, right, I've built this thing for exactly this person, and then if they don't like it, you're screwed. But at the same token, you want to know who you're selling to because you want to know what their problems are. So one thing that really annoys me is, like, especially at startup weekends and things like that, when I'm like, oh, who's your target customer? Oh, anyone who wants to buy a thing. So no, probably not. Like, they're gonna, even if you can't define them in terms of, you know, demographics or something, there'll be some similarities between them. Maybe it's a pain point that's exactly the same for that particular group or something. So and then it doesn't mean you don't sell to other people. It just means that that's the person that you're speaking to, and you're gonna, you know, develop your system or market your product, and you're gonna speak to them specifically. Or you have some levels of products that speak to a couple different markets. So I'm not answering your question very well here. Just can't have any.
No, but it makes sense what you're saying.
Yeah, so I would, just a bit of iterative, like work out who it is you actually think you're trying to sell to, and what their pain point is, and what you're solving, and how you're solving it, and then take it out to them and talk to them and see, do they want it? Are you actually dealing with their issue? And then if you've got it out in the market a bit and you're getting feedback from other customers, like, listen to it, but just again, it's an awareness thing. Be aware that they're not the customer you're going for, but if there's enough of them, maybe you should go for them as well, but you might tweak it slightly. So we have packages, so that was one of the biggest things we did to drive revenue was, so with the position in the market, our customers were really confused because I don't have a huge amount of control over pricing because it's a global distributorship. So I have a bit because I don't listen and I just do whatever I want, but I can't do too much or I get in trouble. And so I had priced it really how I was kind of supposed to, and it was cheaper than the competitor. So I'm out there trying to say we're premium, we're better, and it's cheaper. And they were completely confused. And then they're like, you know, it's horses, right? So if it's more expensive, it's got to be better. So then they're buying the competitor's product because it's more expensive. So what I did was I couldn't just raise the price of the product significantly. So I'm talking going from $5,500 to $12,000, like a big price jump. So what I did was I packaged it. So I built a package where the average package price is $12,000. The competitor's price is like $9,000. So now the package, the most popular package, is more expensive than the competitor's product. So when they're coming to us, we're saying, oh, we're premium, we're better, we're imported from Germany, all the top riders in the world use us, and we're $12,000. They go, okay, that makes sense. And they really want it. And then they go, oh, I don't have $12,000. Can I just buy the rug? And they go, yeah, you can just buy the rug. And then I can sell them the rug, which happens to be cheaper. But they've already positioned it higher in their mind. So you don't have to fight that anymore. So that was a big learning. And then with our packages, we had this like whole custom thing. I was really big on custom for a couple of years because I thought everyone wanted it. But at the end of the day, especially now, people don't want to make decisions. They want it to be easy. They want it to be fed to them. So we built 3 packages. We did this last year, only 6 months ago. It made a massive difference. And so we packaged the products up. We made 3 packages, and they're the reliable competitor, the elite performer, and the speedy rehabilitator. So they solve very different problems. They're 3 different price points. Doesn't mean that they can't customize a package, like we'll offer it, but the reality is like all these people wanted customized packages and we thought that's what they wanted, but when we packaged it up, very few people actually do. But the thing I found really interesting was because everything we do tells the customer we know who they are and we know what they want, And then we name these packages and they completely resonate with the name and what it's about. So I'm like, oh, this is the reliable competitor package. This is for the person who, you know, probably works full-time in a professional job. They only go to one competition a month, and when they go to that competition, they want to do pretty well. They don't want their horse to be unsound, and they want to enjoy the day so they can get back to their training. And then they hear that and they're like, oh, that's me. And then they don't even care what's in the package. Like, put whatever I want in there. The reality is they trust that we know them so well that we've picked the right thing for them. So that was a really interesting thing, and that's made a massive, massive difference. So yeah, just think about that. But that also takes some iteration. Like I probably couldn't have gone straight out the gate and done that because I didn't know the customer well enough. So it's a bit toing and froing. But I'm all for packages at the moment. Everyone build some packages. Name them well.
Do you find one now, 6 months ago, what have you, when you started the package thing, do you feel the majority of the clients sort of dissect it and you use that as a marketing tool, or a lot of people just going for the packages?
Oh, they just go for packages. People don't want to make decisions. They've got information coming at them everywhere. If you can make a decision for someone, they will love you. I didn't even want to decide what mic to use tonight.
Now you love me.
I know I love
Made
it.
a choice for you.
Is it? I don't even need a mic. Is it on? It says it's on.
I don't think
It's on.
They're meant to be the same level. Did everyone at the back hear that?
Have you just been sitting there?
You have to start again.
Start.
Just going on, you're talking about your packages and making it simple for customers, which, you know, great concept. But do you think your business strategy about getting the best riders in the world, so that's actually building brand trust, using Nike, you know, what does Nike invest in? They only invest in the best athletes in the world. So that actually kind of trusting relationship, if the best, you know, riders in the world are using it, therefore it must be good, and therefore it's easier for you to actually pitch that trust and that relationship straight away, and then you're just packaging the items?
Yeah, I think both is important, and it's a very fair point because, to be honest, I did the two things at the same time. So what I did with the like, we always had good riders, and what I learnt, we'd be at a trade show or something and I'd be telling everyone about the riders. So I'd be like, you know, Carl Hester uses it and this rider uses it, and they're, oh yeah, interesting. So then I had this idea that I was sick of trying to get Australian riders, and I was really struggling to get the A grade riders because we didn't have enough of a name, and I was getting like good riders but a bit top of B grade. And so I was like, I want to get these top riders in the world. So I thought, all right, I'll go to Europe and the UK. I'll just do some couch surfing and do them around. So what I did was I was spending advertising money on this fairly high level magazine, and it was costing about $1,200 a month. So I thought, all right, what I'll do, because I bootstrap everything. Other than that initial 25 grand I put into Animal Therapeutics, everything has been completely self-funded. So I'm always like really thinking, how can I leverage this? How can I get the best value out of this? So all right, I'll take that marketing budget that I'm spending anyway, and I'll use that to go overseas. So I went to Europe and the UK, and I organised all these interviews with all these top riders who use the system. And I went to Burley, and I like snuck in through security with my camera and shit and did videos. So it was awesome. And then what I did was I sold the articles back to the magazine. So I traded them, and I didn't even get, I used to buy full page colour ads. They gave me inside back cover. So I got 3 inside back cover ads. But what I did was I wrote the article, like 2,000 word article, decent article, and I did a little bit of product placement, and it was subtle enough that they didn't pull it out, so it got printed. So they're reading this article about the top rider in the world who's using this system in Europe and the UK, and there's photos and what do you use for your therapy system? And, there's a bit of my product in there. But then I matched the ad to the article, so then they'd get to the back page, and the back page would be the same rider as in the article, and the rider's just told them to buy this product, and then there's an ad. Someone's speaking to them. So then they came to the stall, and this was at the same event last year. They came to the stall and they were like, oh, well, Carl Hester told me to buy this, so here's my credit card. And whereas before they'd get to my stall and I'd be like, do you know Carl Hester uses this? So yeah, that's very important. So I think the two things had a big impact, and I released them both at the same event. So it's, what one worked more, I don't know. It's certainly easier to sell with the packages. You can train people to sell easier. They don't have to learn as much. And it's easier for people to make a decision, so you don't get stuck on that negotiation cycle and then trying to decide. But I definitely think that what we did in terms of the lead up with the positioning of the international riders, because then we start getting A grade riders in Australia, because then we're like, well, screw you Australian riders, obviously not smart enough anyway, or just go straight to the top. So we went to, the gold medal winners, Olympic gold medal winners, and got their testimonials, and so now we use that. So yeah, that made a big difference as well.
Cool.
Cool.
I think we'll wrap it up.
All right.
So everyone on their feet.